Locals in parts of southern Syria are enjoying relative peace for the first time in 6 years. That was made possible by a Russia-US brokered ceasefire deal in the region. Here's exclusive video from the ground there.
We wish for the truce to hold and that peace will finally come to the whole of Syria. We are here sitting together. It's been a long time since we were together like this, in peace.
We will respond quickly to any violation at any time. We are ready to protect the civilians.
So this all came out publicly in Hamburg at the G20 summit. Nikki Aaron's with us. Tell us a bit more details about this first thing this Monday morning. How's it, what's the backstory to it and how's it going to play out?
Well, Kevin, it was last week at that G20 meeting we saw the first face-to-face meeting between the US president and the Russian president, and after which the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that the two sides had agreed to implement a ceasefire in the southwestern provinces of Syria, and that came into effect yesterday on July the 9th. Let's take a listen.
Russia, the US and Jordan have reached a ceasefire agreement for Syria. The ceasefire will come into effect in 3 areas: Dera, Quneitra and Sweda. It will come into force on the 9th of July. The US and Russia have committed to monitoring the ceasefire and ensuring humanitarian access to the areas. Initially, security in these areas will be ensured by Russian military police in close cooperation with the US and Jordan.
Now, these 3 southern provinces that Sergei Lavrov just mentioned, they share a border with Jordan, which is also part of the agreement, and they also share a border with Israel. And inside this zone is the Golan Heights. This is a disputed area between Syria and Israel, and it's a Syrian territory, but it's been occupied by Israel since the 60s, according to the UN. And over recent weeks, there's been a surge in exchange of fire in the Golan Heights, and so it is a possibility that this de-escalation zone could also help alleviate tensions here and prevent such incidents from happening in the future. Get you.
Now, it's early days. This has only just really come into force over the last less than 24 hours. What's reaction been so far?
Very positive so far. We've heard from the US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who said this new agreement is a sign that the US and Russia can work together in Syria. Also, a very optimistic tone from the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Regarding whether the US position on Syria has changed, I think it's become more pragmatic. In general, it doesn't seem to change, but there's now an understanding that we can achieve a lot with a united effort.
Now, this new, what's being called a pragmatic approach from the US is seen as a very important step forward. And this optimism is also being shared by some key leading figures, including Federica Mogherini, the European Commission Vice President, and also the Deputy Special Envoy for Syria.
The agreed ceasefire deal over an important area in the south of Syria is a positive development.
The implementation of these arrangements towards a nationwide cessation of hostilities and unhindered humanitarian access is key to facilitate the intra-Syrian talks under UN auspices in Geneva.
Now, this is no doubt a breakthrough in terms of US-Russia relations. It shows that they can move forward together, they can reach an agreement on fighting terrorism. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've been here before. There have been numerous ceasefire agreements, numerous de-escalation zones set up, and they've all broken down, with the two sides accusing each other of violating the terms of these agreements. So it's too soon to be overly optimistic and call this a major breakthrough for the Syrian conflict as a whole, especially when there are still major stumbling blocks preventing all sides from agreeing. And the major issue here at hand is the future of the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, as the leader of Syria.
Yeah, that's the big crux of this, isn't it, along the way? OK, thanks, Nikki, for the update there. Well, is it a false dawn? Let's try and sound out a few experts in regional affairs about their thoughts where it's going to go.
I think that the Russian president put it best when he said this more pragmatic American approach, which no longer sets conditions like the removal of the Syrian president. I think this factor does indeed make the chances for this latest ceasefire to be more successful. It increases the likelihood of success because we do indeed appear to have a new American recognition of reality, a more pragmatic, as I said, American approach?
I think we should be fairly optimistic because previous ceasefires failed because there were powerful spoilers. In the Aleppo case, it was al-Nusra, the al-Qaeda affiliate, which was very strong and was able to disrupt the ceasefires there. In the south, the military situation is different. Most of the fighting forces on the rebel side are smaller groups affiliated with the so-called Free Syrian Army, and the al-Qaeda affiliated groups are very small in numbers. I think both sides, the Syrian government side with Russia behind it, and the rebel side in the southwest with America behind them, want this to work.